We're going to reveal to you today how many Central Coast people listen to our radio station. Did you see that? Intriguing. Who'd like to venture a rough figure as to how many people actually live on the Central Coast, the total population of the region? That's the old Wyong Shire, the old Gosford City, LGA, so that goes from the Hawkesbury Bridge up to where Sharon lived.
About 300,000.
Excellent. Very good. Janice, you've got the stats worked out, about 320,000 people. And that particular area is part of what we call our listening potential area. Okay? We are licensed as a community broadcaster to cover all those LGAs, and in doing so we start from round about where the Hawkesbury is up to YE. Doesn't quite get into Morisset, supposedly, although we do have some listeners from Morisset and those burbs, but there's 320,000 people in there. When I first came to the coast back here in 1971 to work at, I guess, the opening days of 2GO, the local population we were claiming in our advertising was 75,000 people. Boy, has this town grown. Holy moly! It is rock and rolling. Over the years, particularly in the 80s, there was a time once, by the way, for those who may not remember, where the CBD of Gosford was the only major shopping centre on the Central Coast. That's where all the big stores there. There was Myer, there was this, there was that, they were all there. And it was always a shit fight getting into Gosford because where do you park?
It still is.
It still is, even though we haven't to worry about. Erin Affair came along in the 80s, and of course the other shopping centres beyond that. But the population of the town has grown dramatically, and in doing so, so has the number of radio stations. Okay? Back there in 1971, I'm not going to give you a long history, but in 1971 we had no radio stations until the old 2GO AM started off, and then by about 1989, 1990, Coast Rock started, which is now called HIT, and then come about 2001, we had Star FM start off, okay? In the meantime, a number of community stations started as well. There was Coast FM, which was then called 2CCC, and there was 50 Plus Radio, there was Radio Rima Christian, there were a couple of aspirates who were also on the air as a trial. There was like Youth Radio or Progressive Radio, and the other one that also came on board was the Country Music. So we've got 4 community radio licences, 3 commercials, 2 ABC channels licensed for this area, and all those signals coming in from the edges, like Sydney Radio is often in parts of the coast very, very clear, FM particularly, and on the northern part of the Central Coast you can get Newcastle. So with all these radio stations, we are spoilt for choice. Right, Shannon? You can get this, that, the other thing, here, there, everywhere. What would make a person tune to our little station? I say little station nicely because community radio stations aren't favoured with big power. We've only got a sixth, less than an eighth of the power of what the commercials are. And power means coverage, okay? So what would make people tune to our station? Well, let me tell you, back when I became involved here about 14, 15 years ago, and Trent would remember because he was part of the team there the early days, we were called 2CCC. And it was a radio station, Shane was here at the time, and he must have been gnashing his teeth, because it was a radio station that presented a whole bunch of different programs at different times of the day. You might hear jazz at 9 in the morning, and at 11 o'clock it could be showtime music, it could be, other formats after 12. At 4 o'clock, what were you doing it for? Rock and roll, top 40. Okay, so you had this, huge variety, massive variety of choice on the radio station. The only problem is, no one listened. That was a major problem. I mean, say, I did a bit of a straw poll. I was invited in by the then Chairman Mao, who said to me, Pete, you've got a bit of commercial radio background. We're about to close. We're just about to close the show. They had no revenue coming in from any stream, and the listenership was like, and they had I think the proof was in a radio phone they had, and no one called up to donate money. It was a pretty sad story. The other thing they were facing as well was a change of venue where the landlord of the building they were at the time was giving warning that they had to pull out, and there was probably 2 and 6 in the bank. So I said to Mal, what we need to do is get a complete shift in the radio station and shift it around to thinking about the audience, not the presenters. Because the radio station was being driven by the presenters with no consideration for the audience or potential audience. Fair enough, Shane? Am I lying? Hope not.
No, that's what on there.
And in doing, that was a huge shift, by the way. It was a massive shift, because all of a sudden the people that were involved in the radio station, and I mean there were some very interesting presenters meetings. My God, they were just about to kill each other, because everybody thought they had a solution to the problem. What they were all thinking about was, did we play more country music? Did we do this? Or did we do that? What do we do about the afternoon programs or the night programs? And you would just go around in circles because there's no solution. There was no solution because there was no audience at the top of the top of the totem pole. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about the audience, because without an audience, you can have a terrific time. You can have Johnny in there playing his favourite song Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. And Johnny, what would you play your favourite song? Give me 2 or 3 songs you play in that favourite song.
You wouldn't hear it and there wouldn't be...
Exactly right. But he'd be having a great time. I'm not putting shit on you, Johnny. I'm saying that's how it was back in the day. You know what I mean? And it was, you know all these presenters. The station was so broke. We had a gold phone. A gold phone that you could call out on with if you put coins in.
Yeah.
There was no way of
You
calling
couldn't
out.
ring anyone, you had to get on the air and say, Mal, can you give me a call at the station?
Yeah, you're saying, we've got a broken down piece of material here.
That's it.
Give us a call.
Yep.
Because you couldn't call out. It was that, you know, it was that basic, the operation. So what we did, we had to change people's thinking at the radio station. And the first thing I said to Chairman Mal in a meeting was, the first thing that's got to go, Mal, is the call sign. 2CCC is like such a bad reputation. I mean, bearing in mind it was the first community radio on the coast, and others had come along. And we had a bit of a board meeting, a bit of a chit chat. We had, I think, 9 people there for the vote. It got up 5-4. So even then, people weren't convinced that might be a way of turning around their whole operation. Anyway, so the thing that we were able to attract, once we got a format in a way, and we called it Easy Mix because it was a consistent, softer sound. You didn't hear rock and roll at 12 in the afternoon. You didn't hear the knitting show at 3 in the morning, or all those kind of weird things as well. What we did is we made the separation between specialised programs after 6 at night and a format during the day to give us some flow of programming and therefore a flow of listening. And it took a while to change. It took a while to get on board. We had people who were not really convinced it was going to work and blah, 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 blah. And they were slowly brought around to the fact that the #1 priority when assessing what the station is doing is the audience, is what the audience want. Over a period of time, we did some research. We did some very low-cost research with the University of Newcastle, and it gave us some quite encouraging figures. And on that, I could base, knowing the population of the area, knowing what figures, the percentages said, about a 25,000 listener. And from that, we were able to get more respect in the community, advertisers would be joining us. So we needed that kind of data to go and talk to potential investors in sponsorship on the station. So 25, and I was quite happy with 25,000. I used to sort of stretch it a bit by saying 25 to 28,000. Yeah, people go, that's pretty cool. And I said most of those people are generally over 50. Okay, because the target audience that we were chasing were the people that the commercial radio wasn't targeting. Okay, so it all kind of makes sense. Remember, we're looking at the audience out there. Now, as time went on, we did further research and the figures were pretty good. 28,000 was kind of believable. We could back that up with research and the like. And our sponsors were pretty happy with that. But then the big opportunity came a couple of years ago when the CBAA, which is the Community Broadcasting Association, said we are going to release the findings of radio research in every major market in Australia at a cost. Okay? At a cost. Because it costs money to do research. It costs money to talk to people on the phone, all that kind of data development. And we sort of sat there and went, well, we're doing pretty good. Sarah and myself, we run the site, as I said. And then the opportunity came along, I think, a year and a half ago, and the CBAA said, we can really do a very good report. Well, when I say a good report, they're not going to fabricate the report. We can do a very good package of information for you at a certain price. Now, 20 years ago, there's no way in the world we could have afforded that. But as time's gone on, you develop revenue that you can buy those services. So what we're going to talk about today is the most recent research outcome in that radio survey provided by the CBAA, I think it's called Foursquare, McNair. Yellow Square, McNair. Okay, McNair. And this is going to tell you the kind of people that listen. Now, it's not going to give you a rating. The ratings are a different thing altogether. We're going to give you what we call the reach of the radio station along the Central Coast in the most recent survey period, which was the latter part of last year. Okay? Ratings that you hear about are a different kettle of fish. They're a combination of how many people you reach and for how long they listen. We don't have enough data to give us comparisons to commercial radio. So with this information, you'll be able to draw a pattern in your mind of the sort of people that tune to Coast FM. Sarah, first one up. Thank you very much. Now, here's the first one. Now, how am I going to read this? Okay.
One would hope you can.
Boy, oh boy, these glasses here are giving me okay. Now, what we've got here is some little tiny figures. These are a part of a printout that they send, or it's part of a kit we buy. Interesting enough that what we've got over here is a figure. And what we look at in terms of our weekly audience reach, REAs here.
Maybe on this screen.
That
might be easy.
I was going to point it out actually. I'm not sure maybe get it here, Sarah.
Would you want me to point?
Okay, this figure here. This figure here says that 51,000 people tune to Coast FM regularly over a weekly period. Okay? The other figures are a bit rubbery. Ever listened is 252. Now that's a big difference to currently listening to a reach of 51,000. But this is almost the population of the entire area. So these are the figures that we also present to our advertisers. We say if you buy a package on Coast FM radio, there's every chance your message can reach 51,000 people. Now, that's interesting. That's not to say they tune 24 hours a day. That's not to say they tune in for 5 or 6 hours a day. They tune in for, who'd like to venture a figure? What would you reckon the average Coast FM listener would tune in at the station in a given week, Monday to a Sunday? Who'd like to venture a figure? Now, the next thing we're going to look at here in the terms of time spent. There's your number, guys. 6.2% hours per week. The average listener will use the radio station. Okay? And that, if you break that down, that's about 1 hour a day, Monday to Friday, and half an hour on each day of the weekend. Okay? Now, does that surprise too many people? I think, David, you got pretty close. Someone else has got the same thing.
Ria got 7.
Ria got pretty close to it as well. Very experienced broadcasters, I must say. But don't kid yourself that people tune to the radio station at every living moment of the day. They don't. It's a tune in, it's a tune out medium. You jump in your car, when you're going to work in the morning at 7:15, you get to work by 20 minutes to 8. This is absolutely something ripping on the radio. You're probably going to close the door and come back in the afternoon. So it's a tune in and tune out medium. Okay? So in any radio survey you'll do worldwide, you'll find that the breakfast session is going to be your highest tune-in period. But these are the days of the week, guys, that have the most listening tune-in. You'll see Monday, 32,000 people of that 50 odd tune in. On a Tuesday, 27 Wednesday, 23 Thursday, 28 Friday, and see how the weekends are different again, because the living pattern is quite different. Okay? That kind of makes sense to people? It doesn't mean that because you might be doing a weekend show that you're not being successful in terms of achieving the same average of the radio station. It's just it means that there are less people tuning in on those days. And you can't, I don't believe, change people's pattern unless it's an absolutely stupendous event. And that's why people like the Channel 7s pay big money for the Olympic Games, because it changes people's patterns. But there it is, 6.2 hours per week is our average listener. I just want to also point out other features in here. The reach that we have here are virtually 50-50 male and female. See here? Male, female. So our audience is very much 50-50. It's not swayed 50% to percentage-wise towards males or female. So it's a good broad coverage. Okay? Also, the profile of the radio station, this is the type of makeup of that 51,000. Quite a few people are aged between 15 and 24. Can you believe that? There's almost 30% are 25 to 39. This is extraordinary. 40 to 54, 16%. We haven't got that. That's the makeup of the 100% of people listening. 55, 64, 8%, and this large section here, which is actually our target audience, 50 and over, 65 or over, make up about a third of our audience, okay? So it's a fairly broad covered radio station. Now, we have gone out initially and specifically thought we would go for the 50 to 75 age group, about 25 years span. Not quite achieving that optimisation yet, but it's interesting. And our clients say, oh, that's interesting that you've got so many of the younger people as well as the older people as well, okay? Why that is, we might be able to talk about that in another session. The other thing that was also of terrific interest to our advertisers, after all, let's face it, we've done this principally to get sponsors involved in the radio station to pay the bills, that this percentage here are homeowners who tune to Coast FM. Our audience, 38% of our audience own their home outright. Are they affected by rising interest rates? No way, they say. They're as happy as a larry because they've probably got investments also generating 3 or 4%. A homeowner's paying off a mortgage is 31%. So near 70% of our audience, and this is, by the way, we are ahead on the anywhere on the coast do the run-throughs. 70% of our audience own or have paid off their homes. Okay, 70%, which is huge, because they're the kind of customers who will get Frank the roofer to come and repair their roof. Give more examples, Sarah, would be all those different. People buying bits and pieces for their home. Mark Matthew, all that kind of real estate people, they love this sort of number because that gives us terrific. So we've built the radio station's revenue over a period of time with those numbers as concrete evidence of the research that we've done. Now, how you apply this in programming is another story. I'm not here to tell you how to do this. But the thing that we've learned over 15 years is that without the benefit of the kind of programming we're doing today, which is a combination of format during the day, specialised programs, and nights and weekends is working really well. It's working really well. And every year when new presenters come on, we're putting new programs up. They're also in sync with the kind of audience expectations. And this is the important thing. We wouldn't, for example, go back to putting horse racing back on the air. You know, we're doing horse racing here.
Words of life.
Words of life. Words of life. We used to do horse racing on a Saturday, and when we pulled the pin, there was a hue and cry from every horse race follower on the Central Coast about dropping that program. What are we at now, Shane? Now we've got 70 days. But the thing was, it was clearly ready for the tip anyway, because these days, if you follow the horses, you can get it on your phone. Not even on that radio, you know what I mean? So we've sort of responded over the years to eliminate programs that have no bearing on the lifestyle of our audience. So, closing today, thank you for tuning in. And when you're looking at various programming elements of your show, don't forget, number one, it starts with A, it's what is the audience expectation. And Shirley will, as she has so well now, back it up by saying we can then promote to the potential audience through our other forms. I'm not going to go any further. I think there's no more slides there.
That's the last one.
Last one. Thank you, slides. Thank you for your time. And enjoy.